Hello, my name is Anna Bolshevitz.
And I am Mia Neal.
If you're just tuning in, we are covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campuses, both in the United States and across the world.
It is a frightening time for all the people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
So yes, I'll kick off with the very first question, Mia. How are these protests impacting student life at universities like Columbia? So when you answer this question, if we could just have the prompter operator scroll back ever so slightly, that's perfect right there. Please, in detail, that portion of the question is what I'd like to ask. What typical student events have been canceled so far and why, in reference to all of these potential threats that we have been seeing on TV?
Thank you, Anna, for the question. To kick this off, I would just like to first say that what is happening on college campuses, it is a right. As the United States, we are free to protest as long as it's peaceful. And at first, that is what the college campuses started to do. Over 1,000 students have been arrested thus far just because they wanted to use their rights. As time went on, we see that there are a few issues at hand here. The students have gone virtual or hybrid. They will not be able to participate in exams due to what is happening on these campuses with the protest. Some people might not even be able to graduate because of what's going on and how they feel about it. And we even see some students on the campuses, especially the Jewish people, not okay with feeling safe on these campuses.
Okay. And if we could just get a cue as to how much time we have here until this segment ends. We are actually working to understand a bit more. So is it for sure that everything was canceled? Or is it just circumstantial? Or you're saying in some cases things were hybrid?
Yes. So basically what is happening is graduation is at risk, tuition is at risk, legal charges, grades affected, and even suspension for some of the students during this time.
Okay. All right. And in our last few seconds that we have here, anything else you'd like to add?
I would just like to say that, just so everyone knows, last night the students did decide to raid Hamilton Hall. There were approximately a dozen of them after they were supposed to move their camps because the president, Moshe Shafik, she asked them to take down their camps, and they did not abide by her rules, and they ran into Hamilton Hall, where the police arrested every single one of them.
All right. Well, we really thank you for that. I'm going to round up by saying I'm Anna Bolshevitz.
And again, I'm Mia Neal. Have a good rest of your day.
Good morning and welcome back to SBU TV. I'm Kieran Keneally.
I'm Katie Green.
And if you're just tuning in, we are covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campus, both in America and across the world.
It's a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
And Katie, there are real concerns for the safety and security of students. Educators and staff of the Jewish faith, from top to bottom, how does religion play a primary role in these protests?
Obviously, that's a really big topic for these protests. You have people calling the students anti-Semitic, or people who are not supporting the protests, pro-Zionist, and they support Israel and the genocide of the Palestinians, or anti-Semitic and you are supporting the hate of the Jews. But I think there's also a lot more at play here with involving the students and how they're getting treated, and the censorship and suppression that those students are facing while trying to voice their opinions and show that they can support something that they care about. Which, speaking of the students and their censorship, what are the protesters demanding at Columbia?
Yes, that's right. So for about 2 weeks, there have been protests across America, and these students have been protesting the Israel-Hamas war. A lot of these students, according to CBS News, have been supporting Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Now, a lot of these protesters are protesting their school's support of Israel and or businesses that support Israel or Israel in the Israel-Hamas war. So one of the big things that these students are demanding, as well as some faculty, they want their schools to commit a quote-unquote divestment, according to CNN News. And basically, that means a withdrawal of funds from Israel or businesses supporting/helping Israel during the Israel-Hamas war. So that is one of the big things that protesters are demanding. Now, another thing recently is that they want what's called amnesty. And amnesty is basically the pardon or freedom of protesters and demonstrators who have been arrested thus far. Now, recently, protesters are also calling for these schools to start supporting start supporting Hamas in Gaza. They want funds to go there. Now, from what we're being told from such as Columbia, for instance, according to CBS News, they're not willing to send funds to the Gaza Strip. Now, it doesn't seem like either side is willing to sort of barge in negotiations with this situation. So protests keep going on, and they want a complete divestment from Israel. Katie.
Very interesting. Tough story to follow today. We'll be here all day. Tune back in at any time with live updates.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I'm Kieran Keneally.
I'm Katie Green.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Hello everyone and welcome to SBU TV. I'm Nate Solomon.
And I'm Jaylene Valdez.
If you're just tuning in, we're covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campuses, both in the United States and across the world.
It's a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
So Jaylene, from what you've seen, how are these protests impacting university students across the world, and how many American universities report having protesters and demonstrations on their campuses?
You know, Nate, the Columbia University is at the epicenter of most of these protests. You know, many other campuses such as George Washington University, USC, Princeton University, all have joined in solidarity with Columbia University protesting against this war. Like other college campuses, most of them are moving hybrid. Many are canceling, unfortunately, their final exams and moving hybrid. Or such as USC, they're just canceling their commencement overall. And that's unfortunate because, you know, many of the class of 2024, before they dealt with the pandemic, they didn't have a graduation. And now they're walking into an unfortunate event where, such as the valedictorian isn't allowed to speak at the commencement. And it's unfortunate that many of these campuses are turning hybrid and going online. And my question to you is, Nate, is how are the protests impacting final exams and graduation season at Columbia compared to other campuses?
Yeah, absolutely. And Columbia, it's been changing almost by the minute at Columbia. I mean, we just saw last night a couple of hundred protesters were arrested over at Columbia, and now the total at Columbia is over 1,000. And since these protests have started back in April, they've basically gone from a normal in-person learning environment to basically a completely online and hybrid learning environment. So there's very limited classes now at Columbia and other universities as well. We just saw USC. They moved their graduation to completely online just this morning. So it's not just at Columbia, but you know, for Columbia students, they're going to have to take most of their exams online. They're not going to be able to have a really normal end to the year like at many other universities because these protests are continuing to get more and more severe. There's obviously a big split about whether you know, they should be protesting, whether they shouldn't be protesting, and like we mentioned last night, the pro-Palestine you know, encampments were raided by people who were against and for the Israelis. So obviously a very unfortunate situation of what is happening at Columbia, and they're going to be forced to having to go online.
And Nate, like you said, other campuses are also dealing with it. This morning I read that Florida State University, police ended up using tear gas to back away protesters and things of that nature. There's a call for police around campuses in different states around campus to, you know, call for a change and step in so that everyone on the campus is safe and well during this time.
That'll do it here for SBU TV. I'm Nate Solomon.
And I'm Jaylene Valdez. Everyone please stay safe around college campuses in America. Thank you and have a great day.
Good afternoon, I'm Clay Peets with SBU TV, and we are covering the pro-Palestine protests today.
I'm Maya Mack, and
If If you're just tuning in, we're covering the pro-Palestine protest, like I said, that continues to go across college campuses, both in the United States and across the world.
It is a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
Now, let's gain some perspective on what's happening in the Middle East. What is happening right now on the Gaza Strip that directly relates to these protests happening across college campuses in the United States and across Europe?
Well, Clay Peets, in October of 2023, the people of Palestine sent a surprise attack on the people of Israel from the Gaza Strip, which has now led to the people of Israel holding a blockade from the Palestinians from where they cannot get the essential goods that they need to survive, which is why the people at these universities like Columbia or Harvard or Yale feel that their school should not have any association with what is going on or supporting any companies that are allowing Israel to profit off of them or helping them get the supplies they need to attack. So let's get into the next question, which is how and why do these protests spark a multi-sided debate about freedom of speech? What are the different opinions?
Yeah, and there's, anytime there's war, there's going to be several opinions, and obviously freedom of speech is wrapped up in the pro-Palestinian protest, and along with school. You have to think about, Colombia's President Safrik, seen as, the perfect president for Colombia, is now facing backlash on her students, having that fine line of academics while still being able to represent freedom of speech. Now, obviously presidents are wrapped up in this as well. President Biden said that the Colombia's protests last night were not a good way to present a peaceful protest and were not an exemplary example of a protest or where he wants these protests to be. President Trump kind of went with the route of, I'm praising the law enforcement for what they're doing. That is all we have with SBU TV. I'm Clay Peets.
I'm Maya Nack.
So long. Yeah, and left-leaning lawmakers, they've really been against Safrik for, authorizing the New York military, or the New York State military, to come in and, police department as well, to kind of calm these riots. But, these students, they want to, produce what their Second Amendment right is, freedom of speech. And to do that safely has been the battle here.
I'm Maya Nack.
And Clay Peets. So long.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Frank DeBari here with SBU TV.
My name's Cal Reddington.
If you're just tuning in, we're covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campuses, both the United States and across the world.
It's a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
These protests did not just begin. They've been going on for a long time. When did these protests at United States universities begin, Cal?
Well, there has been some protests and we've been seeing a lot of conflict for a while. However, in the past month, we've seen a huge spike in these encampments across the United States in these universities. And there are over 30 universities now that have encampments or some sort of current protest for these Palestinian conflicts.
Cal, over 1,000 university students have been arrested so far because of these protests.
Who is Columbia University's president, and why are there calls for Columbia's president to resign?
The University of Columbia's president, Minucci Shafik, can't bring order to these protests and students across the campus. She's not doing enough to protect all students, including Jewish students, who have been chastised, harassed, and mocked just because of their religion. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, visited Columbia and listened to some Jewish students express fear just for attending university.
It is very tough to call someone to resign just for, trying to do their job, but when you have situations like this going on in your campus, it makes it difficult to release some backlash from.
And like
from
you
those
said, it
issues.
is very tough to call for resentment for a university's president like this. But when she can't protect her students that she is called to protect, like you said, it is very, very hard to not resign. Even President Joe Biden has had smaller campaigns to talk about these protests, and even he called for her to resign.
Yeah,
So-
I know. I think that it is important for the president to, maybe step in now, though. He stayed mostly quiet during this crucial time in protest, and I think that, this is a big part of history right now that we're witnessing, and he stayed mostly silent. So I think that, it's important for him to give his side of the story, especially during an election year. It's important for
It
him
is.
to
This is a
to
big
talk about it.
time for President Biden, and I am honestly a little shocked that he has stayed quiet. But I'm Frank Dabari.
And I'm Cal Reddington.
Stay tuned to SBU TV to hear more about these protests.
Good afternoon from St. Bonaventure's campus. I'm James Torres,
And I'm Nathan Donnelly.
and today we are going to be talking about. Oh shoot! Oh wait. Can I restart?
No.
Oh, okay. If you're just tuning in, we're covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campuses, both in the United States and across the world.
It's a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
Nathan, how are U.S. political leaders, including President Biden, responding to these protests?
There are many different ways that U.S. political leaders are responding to the protests. One way is a couple members of the Senate have called for President Shakif of Columbia University to resign. They do not like how she's handling the protests at Columbia. There are a lot of tenting. There's a lot of tenting happening at Columbia, and another way the senators have decided to oppose President Shakif is that they do not also like how she has. Marsha Blackburn as well is a senator. She's called for all international students from Hamas to be deported back to Hamas.
Yeah.
James, how are police responding to these protests? More specifically, arrests were made just last night at Columbia's Hamilton Hall. And why did police arrest protesters? And who gave the order?
Yeah, so, police, as of last night, were given the order from, Columbia University themselves to, go in to Columbia and make the arrest towards the protesters, and how police officers are responding to this, this news, of about Columbia University. They're going in with, all arms, with the fact that, students are, breaking school policy with the encampment, that's been going around campus. And, Columbia gave a notice, yesterday afternoon by 2 p.m. if they didn't, get off campus and get rid of all the encampment that around campus, then, suspensions would possibly be happening, and, consequences would be happening, possibly getting kicked out of their dorms, getting kicked out of their townhouses. So, police officers have, as of last night, made dozens of arrests towards the students, for the students. And, we have seen, more and more protests break out and more arrests that are coming in, as the day goes on. Currently, we are here on Friday afternoon. And, why, Columbia University has to do this, so... we are going to end the show here. Thank you, everyone, and stay tuned.
Good afternoon. My name's Aiden Toot.
And I'm Anthony Da Silva.
If you're just tuning in, we're covering the pro-Palestine protests that continue across college campuses both in the United States and across the world.
It's a frightening time for all people involved in these historic events. There are a lot of questions focused on the safety and security of our American college campuses.
Why are these protests threatening the safety and security of the Jewish community? How would the Jewish community have a solid legal case?
It's really threatening, how it's impacting the Jewish community, just because all these anti-Semitism like spiels, and they're just hurting the community. They're talking about just really hurting them and just spewing them, just calling them out, saying, oh, it's their fault or something like that. And it's just like, but there's solid legal cases. Like these college campuses have rules against this stuff, and that's how they can defend them. And the people holding these protests are getting arrested.
There has been a significant increase in anti-Semitic cases across college campuses, and this has been a serious topic. Some college presidents have gone to Congress to discuss these anti-Semitic remarks and how to deal with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're in court right now, just discussing them and like how to effectively deal with it. Is it against their policy or is it against? And most are saying it is against their policy for this to happen. And why are pro-Palestine protesters protesting, and how are some of the protesters responding to accusations that they are spreading messages of hate towards those in the Jewish community?
The main thing that they're protesting right now is for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and they have seemed to have gotten their wishes granted. The Israeli government and the Palestinian governments are in talks right now, although it's been very shaky. It's going to be a few days before we really find any concrete evidence of a ceasefire being planned out, but it's going to be a tough few days. But the main thing that these Palestinian protesters are being pinned with being anti-Semitic is because there have been scenes of them denying Jewish students entry from their colleges, and it's a rough look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like anything else, like any ways else it's impacting them, or is that just like it?
Well, they have been. There's calls for there's some chants. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's a sort of underlying tone asking for the destruction of Israel, if you will. So it's a harsh topic, but it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yep. So that's all we got for here today. We'll keep you updated on anything that's going on in the Palestine-Gaza conflict. From SBU TV, I'm Anthony Silva.
And I'm Aiden Toot.